Welcome everyone to a very special episode of Reede Scholars Live. From groundbreaking research to heartfelt stories, these videos have not only informed, but also inspired change. Let's explore the highlights that have made Reede Scholars a beacon of hope and progress. Join us on a journey through our top 10 videos that have defined our mission and showcased our commitment to advancing health equity. Let's dive right in with our number 10 video. Let's talk health equity, health communication and messaging with Chelsea Dade.
In health communications, it's a great example because it's a very highly academic space, and it's important to have community engagement backgrounds in that space, or else all the messaging kind of replicates you talking to a peer in your institution, and that's not necessarily the goal. Actually, someone, I can't remember who exactly I talked to. I talked to a lot of people, which is always fun. But someone had asked me about a message that they had seen, and it had stated something about the FDA, and the person told me, well, I understand why you're putting FDA in this phrase, but someone in the community might, think that the FDA is the FBI, or these acronyms that we tend to use very loosely in public health and healthcare spaces are not necessarily utilized in other places. They may be, but they might also not be. And that really stuck with me as well.
Coming in at number 9, we have Let's Talk Health Equity, Policy and Opportunities at the VHA with Cameron Matthews.
And so now you're at the VA. And so everybody hears about the VA, right? We all had an uncle or aunt or, grandfather who, I remember going to the VA with my grandfather when I was a kid, right? And it was always way over there, right? Up on the hill, right? You didn't want to go, we did have the VA attached to Vanderbilt as a med student. So I did rotate through there. So then I got a different appreciation, right? But it really made me
understand. As a woman, right?
Right. And then we rotated a little bit as residents as well. And the little bitty GYN, they had a little bitty cutout for us in the GYN downstairs in Tennessee. But then I think I actually really understood that the VA was more like the infrastructure of the VA is huge. And they were doing so much stuff that you wouldn't quite understand till you got into it. And that was experience eons ago. So I know that was just touching the surface, but did give me a different appreciation than, what I thought of the VA as a kid going, to the place with my grandma.
Number 8, let's talk health equity, dermatology, COVID-19 and entrepreneurship with Candrace Heath.
All those things that you just shared are so heavy on my heart because I like to attack problems from multiple sides, and I'm definitely working on a national level to help create a curriculum so that dermatologists, regardless of their background, their creed, their color, their whatever, can be comfortable taking care of a patient who does not look like them, who does not have hair like them. So that will be one of my ultimate life goals, to make everyone comfortable dealing with who lands in their exam room.
Number 7 on our list is Let's Talk Digital Health and Health Equity with Dr. Edmondo Robinson.
My thought on digital is this. Digital is a means to an end. What we're trying to do at Moffitt, for example, is we're trying to cure cancer. It's prevention and cure of cancer. Digital is not the end. Digital is the means to get us to prevent and cure cancer. And so I think about technology in that way. And so I think about it strategically. And so I because I come at it with a different perspective than maybe someone who came in from the technology space. So that's how I got there. But I still think of it that way. I love the technology, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, what are we trying to accomplish? What's our strategy and what's our mission? And how do we leverage those tools to get us there?
At number 6, we have Representation Matters, Black Men in Medicine with Arnold Henry.
And there's a team of surgeons that came in, and in that team of surgeons, there was one Black male. And I don't know why I was so astonished, probably because I had never seen that before, and he was very tall, so he stood out. And he just, no matter what anyone said to me, my eyes were just fixated on him. And I felt just this enormous amount of comfort. I was scared like crazy as a kid, but for some reason I just felt so comfortable and did not know why. And looking back, it's probably because I saw someone that I could familiarize myself with. And I still remember that to this day. And just thinking back on that point, that's what I want it to be like with me. I want other Black males, even Black females, adults, you know, to have a certain comfort level when they see me and know that I have their best interests in mind. Not saying that others don't, but it's something when you see someone that looks like you, particularly when you're not used to seeing.
Number 5 is Let's Talk Health Equity. Healthy Aging and Innovation with Alana Kiefer.
There's also, I think we saw very clearly during COVID, but this was an issue well before that, the digital divide. Yeah. So as we move as a society and as a world to more and more and more digital every single day, we are leaving behind this generation that did not grow up on computers and did not grow up, you know, thinking that a mouse was anything other than what ran across your floor. Like all these things that my generation and many generations take for granted, do not come naturally to many older adults. And there has certainly been incredible progress in working in bridging that divide for older adults, but we have a very long way to go.
At number 4, Let's Talk Health Equity, Policy and Community with Esteban Gershonik.
You know, ultimately for me, I eventually also served as the Chief Information Officer and Health Informatics Director for the Louisiana Department of Health. And what you find there is Louisiana at the point for our hospital inpatient discharge database in collecting data only had 3 aspects when it was looking at diversity. It was Black, white, and other. And Louisiana is the only state that had a separate dictionary than the other 49 states. And so we wanted to guide that around federal guidelines that has more specifics. And why is that important? So first, if you don't have the data, you don't know on the front end, you don't know how to deliver messages on the back end. So you really don't know your population well. And we know that our communities are broader than that. In Louisiana, for example, especially in New Orleans, there's a large Honduran and Vietnamese population. Well, Black, white, and other doesn't capture Honduran and Vietnamese. So if we need to message things to our communities, how do we engage and message things to our communities to make that impact? And I think what we're also seeing during COVID, which is something that we also saw during Katrina, there's also a large group of populations that don't trust the system, right? So that has to be, in typical fashion, that has to be addressed. You can't hide a problem and then think you can solve it without addressing it. And so there's large institutional issues about collecting data that communities are aware of, but institutions may be blind to. But it's important because if we have representation at the table and it's collected, then we have to have the impact on our communities in order to properly address the issues that are out there.
Number 3 is Let's Talk Health Equity, Politics, Psychology and Race with Camille Berg.
So I think the anger that we're especially seeing among Black Americans is just a continuation of what we've seen. And this is what I've been trying to explain to people in these workshops that I've been doing. People are like, why now? Why is this happening now? As if there have not been protests. As if there have not been protests, especially related to police brutality and white mob violence since, 1865. But the thing that's different now, and I'll come back to more of a why, but I think the thing that's different now is the fact that we do have policemen with body cameras. We do have people with cell phones all around. Technology is what's different now. So instead of my grandmother or your mom and dad or your grandparents telling you a story about something that happened in their neighborhood, everybody can see what's happening within a matter of seconds. And so I think that's part of the reason why we're getting the why now, why is this different?
At number 2, Let's Talk Health Equity, Social Justice and Structural Racism with Kimberly Colley-Narain.
I have a 7-year-old daughter and was just really struggling trying to find a resource to help me, explain what she was seeing in the environment around us. So all the protest and to help her understand how something like George Floyd could happen in her lifetime. And, what I found in talking to her is, based on what she had learned thus far, with her curriculum, she really had the sense of the struggle for civil rights was over. A direct quote that I'll share with you when we were talking about sort of segregation was that she said to me, well, I'm so glad Martin Luther King solved racism. And it kind of dawned on me that because of how it's taught, particularly in K through 12 education, or how civil rights is taught specifically, is a lot of adults have that impression too.
And finally, our #1 video, Health Equity, Indigenous Populations, History, Culture, Policy and Science with Donald Warren.
Yeah, and as we all know, in our communities, the messenger really matters. And if you have well-trained people from other communities trying to impart health recommendations or health education, it's just not nearly as effective when it comes from our own people. So there's really measurable impact in terms of the need for a diverse workforce to effectively send messages, do it in a culturally competent way, but also to influence health-related behaviors. So it's vitally important. And when we think of underrepresented minority populations, American Indians are the minority of the minority populations, and we're the most underrepresented of the underrepresented populations, unfortunately. So we're around 2% of the overall population and about 0.3% of physicians. Really remarkable.
Thank you for joining us on this special anniversary episode of Reede Scholars Live. As we look back on these incredible moments, we are reminded of the power of community, knowledge, and action. Here's to many more years of making a difference. Together, stay connected, stay inspired, and continue to be a part of the Reede Scholars legacy.